Hello, Algebra 1 students. We're going to rush through the end of our... Hello, Algebra 1 students. We are going to be simplifying rational expressions today. And if at any point I'm going too fast, please stop and rewind or pause the video. All right, rational expressions. By definition, they're an algebraic fraction. Remember, rational means ratio, which means a fraction that has polynomials in the numerator and denominator. Rational expressions, polynomials. Here we go. Number 1. This is a rational expression because it has a binomial in the numerator and a binomial in the denominator. And it's asking us to find the excluded value. Well, what that means is b cannot equal what? -7. Why not? Because if I plug in a -7, -7 plus 7 equals 0, I would have 0 in my denominator, and with 0 in your denominator, dun dun dun, it cannot exist. So remember that. All right, what's excluded from this value? Well, we have to solve. This cannot equal 0. So when we factor a times a, opposite signs, the larger number's negative, multiples of 12, how about 4 and 3? Subtract to give us -1. What makes these equal 0? Well, -3 makes that equal 0. +4. So these are our excluded values, because if we have -3, we'll have 0 times -7 is 0, and we would have 0 times 7, and we cannot have a denominator of 0. So those are our excluded values. So here, -7 was the excluded value. So hopefully you're catching on that 2x plus 1 cannot equal 0. So what makes it equal 0? Well, this becomes a -1 divided by 2. So -1/2 makes it 0. So that's the excluded value. All right, here's your checkpoint. State the excluded value. I'll be looking at this tomorrow. Okay, we throw in some geometry problems every now and then just to let you see that algebra is used in geometry. So this tells us that the height of a cylinder equals the volume divided by pi r squared. And it goes on to tell us that the volume is 770 and that the diameter is 12. So if the diameter is 12, the radius is 6. So 770 divided by 6 squared, when you punch that in your calculator, you will find that the height is about 6.8. And that's inches, not inches squared, because it's the height. So that's just a real quick algebra application problem. All right, looking down at time for review, let's review how to simplify this rational expression. All right, we have 32 over 4 times x to the 5th over x times y squared over y to the 7. And we're supposed, when we simplify, 32 divided by 4 is going to give us 8. We're supposed to keep our exponents positive. So remember, this is x to the 5th minus 1, because that's an understood 1. And then on the denominator, we have y, and we'll bring our 2 down and subtract it to keep our exponent positive. So we have 8x to the 4th over y to the 5th. So I broke it down for you. Some of you could have gotten there without writing out all the steps, but I didn't want to leave anything out. So just like simplify that rational expression, we're going to be simplifying when polynomials are in our rational expression. So let a, b, and c be polynomials, but make sure that a doesn't equal 0 and that c doesn't equal 0, because if we're multiplying times 0, we've already talked about, that will not exist. So don't forget your excluded values as we work through these. But we're going to have polynomials instead of monomials. So I'm going to let you practice this one, since it's just like the other review problem I did, and I'm going to get into the newer material. So simplify and state the excluded value. So the first thing I'm going to do is factor out a 5. We have w minus 2 on top when I factor out a 5. Well, now we need to factor the denominator. So we need multiples of 16 that subtract to give us a positive 6. And that would be positive 8 and negative 2. They multiply to be negative 16 and add to be a positive 6. So don't forget, we got to check for excluded values. Well, W cannot be negative 8 because that would give us 0. And it cannot be positive 2 because that would give us 0. Other than that, to simplify, I have couple W minus 2, the exact same couple in the denominator. We're multiplying here, so it is legal to cancel my W minus 2's. And my simplified version is 5 over W plus 8. So this is my complete answer. All right, moving on. I think I'm going to let you do number 2 for the sake of time. It's very similar to number 1. And let's go down below where it says organize opposites. So let's think about this. The first thing I'm going to do is rearrange this problem, which makes my x squared negative. And we do not like that. So let's, I'm going to go ahead and factor out the 5 just to make sure. I bet I'm supposed to have an x minus 7 on the top, so something will cancel. So by the way, x cannot be 7. I already know that. And when I factor out a negative, that gives me x squared minus 49. That is a difference of squares. Remember difference of squares? That means I'm going to have x plus 7 and x minus 7 in my numerator over 5 times x minus 7. And the x minus 7's cancel. So my final answer is negative, and you leave it out front, negative x plus 7 over 5. And that's your final answer. You can change it and make them all negative, but let's just leave it out front. Okay, and number 2, we'll have to factor the top. Multiples of 20 that subtract to give us 1. So how about 5 and 4? So negative 5, the larger number is going to be negative. Positive 4, they subtract to give us negative 1, multiply to give us negative 20 over x plus 4. I see a pattern. If I have x plus 4, I know that something's going to simplify. Oh, by the way, x cannot be negative 4 because that would make our denominator 0. And my simplified answer is just x minus 5. Go ahead and practice the next one where you have to do a difference of squares on top. Don't forget to rearrange and make it a negative out front. Factor out your 8. So it's very similar to the example 1 that I worked. We're ready for a checkpoint. Let's do these extra practice. So go ahead and practice those 4 problems. We'll start there tomorrow and make sure you feel good about that. All right. Smile, relax. We can see the end in sight.